direction. But today I want to go over a few things. Throw this on here real quick. I get a lot of people questioning on just kind of overall checking the car out, making sure that everything is true and square, and how do I do that? And so I'm going to show you guys today a few different things I do to make sure that everything is good. Just want to do that. Put a couple things on here real quick. How's everybody doing in this crazy world we're having? Hope everybody's doing well. The roads I've been running on lately have been really kind of dirty, so I do have a diff cover I'm running on it just to keep some of the dirt and dust out. But I wanted to put that on and get that out of the way because I want the car to be in its proper state of mind when I go through and check all the squareness and all that. So let me put this back on here real quick and we'll get started. Okay, that'll work. Let's see here. You can barely hear me? Jonathan, can you hear me fine? Can everybody hear me okay? Nothing has changed to the normal. Huh, what?
I hear you fine.
Yeah, Jonathan said he hears me fine. So just check your, if you cup your phone, maybe have your hand over the speaker. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and take tires off. After I
can hear you fine.
Okay.
So
After I usually get done running a race or I prepare for a race, and I usually put my car on my tweak station, and the car is fully battery in it. Everything's ready to go, and I use perfect. Yeah, I have two gatekeepers. I have a completely stock small one, the Element small one, and I have this one here that I'm putting big tires on it and everything else. If I can leave those off. Basically, you need a setup board. You can either buy one of these from your local hobby shop. I had a nice one that Dave at Cody stole mine, so I bought one from OCRC, and I used the black side. I like the black side a little bit better. But you can also get, you can go to Home Depot and grab the shelves. Here, I'll show you. You can get this, the shelving material here, and it's super flat, and I'll use that to check my wheelie bar and that. But with this here, you want to make sure you have a nice flat surface. Some people use a flat piece of glass, marble, anything that's super flat. You really don't want to use like a plastic table or something that can flex because it will shrink and twist and all that. I got this a while back ago. 720 Spin makes this. 2, 3. It's really easy to use. It's super lightweight. I actually ended up getting 2 for whatever reason. So the fronts, and then it's got these for the rear. Now, do you have to buy something like this? No, but it does make it easier. You can tell I use a lot because I got a bunch of time slips in here. This must be from, I don't know where this is from, but I got a bunch of them in here. I usually keep all my time slips to go over later. But go ahead and mount all this up on your car. And what we're trying to do is we're checking for camber, caster, twist from the chassis. Especially you guys now that are getting into these carbon fiber chassis, you really want to make sure that the car is nice and true and square. Because if you don't, and you'll be racing, and you wonder why your car, especially after a big crash, if you're racing a carbon fiber car and you crash really hard, and all of a sudden your car isn't working the same as it did before, more than likely you probably have some kind of twist in the chassis, and it's really easy to check. You just basically take and loosen the chassis up, put the chassis on a flat piece of material, loosen all the screws up on the chassis, top and bottom, make sure it's all flat. Sometimes you might have to just kind of give it a little bit, make sure it's the front and the back's not, it's not teetering, and then tighten everything back up. And then after you get everything snug back up, then go ahead and put it back on your tweak station and make sure the chassis is flat. And all that. Now, one thing I do is I will take I'll take the wheelie bar off also, because I also will check the twist on the wheelie bar. I usually run the Drag Race Concepts wheelie bar on this car, but I was testing something out with this one. I will be going back to the Drag Race Concepts wheelie bar for the next race. So make sure everything's nice and flat, everything is on the table. And you want to check for your camber in the rear. I'll start from the rear, doesn't matter which side you start from. And then I'll take you can use a square, you can get a camber gauge. You can check it that way. Make sure that they're both identical, front and rear. And this one is a little out. So I will take this to make sure that both sides are perfectly. See, this one's got to come out. A little bit more. And you just gotta keep fine tuning it, making sure that everything is nice and true. Because anytime you have something that's off a little bit, it's gonna pull to that side. So there we go. So now I got the rear set up. Also, what I'll do is I'll pick the center of the car up, and I'll set the car down. And I want both sides of the tires to touch the same tire. If I pick it up, so I'll pick it up from the side, and see how this side's touching, and this side's still in the air, that means something's off somewhere. Either the rear shocks, one shock's too longer than the other, the front's off. More than likely, if I'm picking it up and it's not touching the ground at the same time, normally it'll be the front. So everything sits nice and true there. And then the front, you always want to adjust your camber, your caster, your toe end. You always want to do it with your radio on. That way everything is perfectly straight. Okay. So after I got the rear done, rear done. I'll do the front and do the same thing with the radio on. Of course, you want to check your camber, your caster, your toe end. Now with drag racing, I'll run. I like to run the front at 0. The rear, I'll run like a ½ degree of camber, just a half. And then check your toe in. This is a pretty cool setup. One side's flat, the other side's got a 1 degree with these white things right here. And when you set this in here on a ledge, it'll tell you, that's 0, here's 1. It'll tell you if it's flat all the way across, that means it is 1 degree, you got 1 degree of toe out. If it's got a little bit of gap, like on one side, I will adjust the turnbuckle, and I usually do both, like a small turn on both sides. That way I know the car is going to be the same on both. So if you just do one side, what's going to happen is, there we go. If you do just one side, what'll happen is your car's going to pull left or right, and your servo won't be centered. So you want to make sure you do the same on both here and there. Then after I get that set up, I check my camber. Then I also, make sure my suspension's working freely. I'll do the same with the front. I'll pick it up in the middle. Both tires come off the ground at the same time. Now, that's how you're going to set up your camber, caster, and all that on your car. And it's very important that you guys do that. If you guys have a rear tire that's leaning over more than this side, you're not going to get full contact traction on that one tire. So you want to make sure that your car is set up nice and square front and rear. Make sure everything's nice and tight. Make sure that everything lifts at the same time. So, and that's how you pretty much get your car set up true and square. Now on the wheelie bar, I will actually put the wheelie bar on the table too. And look, watch. It's actually got a twist. So you can do it a couple different ways. You can just take it and twist it a little bit like that, put it on the ground. Now it's the other way. Now it's nice and flat and square. And then go back and retighten, make sure everything's nice and tight. You can loosen everything up, reset it, and then retighten it. And these things will vibrate and they'll come loose. That's especially your wheelie bar wheels. On your wheelie bar wheels, it's just a bolt basically mounted into a aluminum tube. You always want to make sure that you have Loctite on these 2 bolts in the back. I've seen more guys go down the track, but half track it spins that one side off because it's the direction down to loosen the bolt. So you want to make sure you Loctite those up. You also want to make sure your wheels are nice and smooth. These are actually DR10 plastic wheels on here that are ball bearing. I remember the bigger wheels with this wheelie bar, and these are actually those Traxxas rubber wheelie bar wheels, and they go right over the top. They do float around a little bit on there, but they're nice and true, and keeps the car going straight. So I'm a strong believer in using 2 wheelie bars in the back. I know a lot of guys can get away with running 1 wheelie bar in the back. If you leave really hard and it comes back on 1 wheel, there's more of a tricycle effect where it could make the car lean one way or another. So I've always really liked the 2 wheel setup. So let's see here. Make sure I don't have any questions here. Now, some guys run sway bars, some guys do not. This is a crucial thing for wheelie bars, and that's to make sure that the wheelie bar is the same on both sides. I know Drag Race Concepts makes a really cool wheelie bar that is ball bearing and it's nice and smooth. Anytime you use any kind of or wheelie bar, sway bar, anytime you guys run a sway bar, you want to make sure that there's no binding. Everything's nice and free. The turnbuckles move back and forth. Same with all these turnbuckles here. They all have to be nice and smooth and loose. If they don't, it's going to create a bind on the chassis and make the car do weird things. So especially with a drag car and the speeds that everybody's getting up to lately, everybody's running over 70 miles an hour now. The more square your car is, the easier it is going to go fast and straight. Now, put all this away back in the box. If you guys see me at the drag strip, also this box is also my car stand I use. I just like the height of it, so and it supports my car real well. But let's put that down there. Now, a wheelie bar setup. I'm gonna go ahead and take this. You gotta take the rear shocks off. Because you want the back end to be nice and free. And I'm going to just pull these off too. All right. Now, on the see how everything's nice and free, everything's loose. On the back of the, let me see if I turn this around for you guys. You can see how everything's nice and free, everything touches the ground. What you're going to do is you're going to hold the chassis down, hold one side of the arm down, and you're going to lift this arm. You're going to check the play the arm has, not like pressure, but just enough just to feel the play in it, and then do the same for the other side. And see how this side has a little bit more play, and this side has no play? I want to take and adjust the sway bar. See if I can do this. So I have, so I have the same play on both sides. And this is a time-consuming process because you have to, you just gotta keep doing it until you have the exact same amount of play. See how I got too much play on that side now? So we'll go ahead and go the other direction. Okay. See, now I got about the same play on both sides. And you want that for the simple reason is when your car launches, and if you have one side tighter than the other, you want the car to launch, squat at the same time. If you have it tight on one side. If you have it tight on one side, the car is always going to try to make that sway bar, it's going to try to be even and make the car launch left or right. And that's when you'll find a lot of guys running a lot more preload in one side or the other. So now I've adjusted it. I'm going to put my shocks back at 0 and it'll be ready to go down the track. So, and if you guys run, I don't know very many people that run a front sway bar, but if you guys do run a front sway bar, you want to check the same, you know, take the shocks off, make sure everything's nice and true, everything's nice and flat. But check it, make sure I got it correct. So yeah, I got the same play on both sides now. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. If you guys have any problems, what's up, Greg? What's up, Brandon? So you want to make sure everything's nice and square on both sides. That's also the reason why I run my speed control in the middle, all the way in the back, and then I run my battery all the way in the forward, in the front. I try to keep everything as even as possible. The switch and the receiver, you know, there's not much weight difference there. And then once I got everything nice and tight, everything nice and, you know, the same, then I know the car is going to be nice and. I need to loosen that side up a little bit. Like I said, this is a tedious setup here, but it's going to really make your cars okay. So now I got everything in. What's up, Tony? Now I got the sway bar set up, the sway bar square, and that's why you have these adjusters on your sway bar, so you can go ahead and you can adjust the sway bar from side to side to make sure everything's nice and square. And then your shocks, you always want to make sure your shocks are nice and free. There's no binding. Always take your calipers and make sure your shocks are the same length. Because if you had a shock that was a little bit longer than another, it's going to make the car have a lean to it. And those are perfectly both the same. Also, what I've also learned, guys, is when you guys if you guys do travel a lot, or if you say you live in elevation, or you live at sea level and you go the opposite, always make sure you go through your shocks and bleed your shocks. Bleed that air out or in. That way you don't have any pressure, because especially like throughout the day of racing. And when you start off in the morning and it's cool, and then it starts getting hot later, your shocks are going to build up pressure, and that also will change your ride height of your cars. It'll change the handling in your car. So really make sure that you guys check your shocks and make sure that there's no pressure built up inside. And speaking about pressure, if you guys are running B-lock wheels, make sure there's some way for that tire to breathe. I run reactions with no foam, and the rims have holes in them, so there's no way for them to build pressure. If you go out and you do a burnout with your car, the heat inside the tire has got to go somewhere, so it's actually going to build pressure in the tire. And one of the races, I did see somebody that was running beadlocks. He forgot to put holes in the tires, and he had one tire, even though it was belted, he had one tire that was pretty hard, and the other one was even harder. So he had a gangster lean to his car, but his car wasn't working either because of the pressure in the tires. So always make sure you guys have plenty of your tires breathe, and and they won't have air trapped in them. So just waiting for the ball-ins. Yeah, I don't understand why. What's up, Philip? I saw the Proline 3rd Gen Camaro come in. Is that true, or is that a hoax? If it is a 3rd Gen Camaro, I'm really interested in running it for the simple reason it's going to have more. I think it's going to be more aerodynamic. So. I haven't heard anything about it. I just saw pictures and you talking about it. What's up, Kenneth? So after you get everything kind of squared up and true, you want to make sure all your bearings are nice and free. If you guys do have, if you ever hit a curb or crash your car real hard, you always want to make sure that there's no broken bearings or wobbly wheels, because all that will affect your car's handling. And then after you get I always put my tires back on my car, and then I'll set the ride height that way. And normally, there's a couple different ways of checking your ride height. You can either use one of these doodads you get from a race shop, and get it out here. And they come in a different height, and you turn it, it goes up 1 mil. That's a short one, and then I have a long one right here. So I believe this one starts off at 20. Yeah, it's 20. So every click is 21, 22, 23. I usually have my car sitting right around, when it's fully race ready, I usually have it sitting around about 20 millimeter high. The rear I'm going to have to lower down a little bit. I did change some stuff on the rear of my car after finding the cracked chassis. But then I'll put the sway bar on it. After you set your ride height on your car, let me put the upside down. Let me put the wheelie bar back in it. Now, also, I get a lot of, I think probably the number one question I get, guys, is how do I gear my car to go fast? I can give you a ballpark on where to gear your car at, but I don't know what motor you're running. Even if you told me it was a Wheelie 4 or 5, I don't know what your timing is, your motor. I don't know what, there's a lot of stuff that has to play into your car. So I can say, hey, start off at here, but then you need to go and fine tune and go out and test and all that. All right, so I got my wheelie bar a little low on that one. And wheelie bar height also has a lot to do with the way your car is going to work too. If you have it set up too low, your car is not going to be able to squat and launch. It's going to basically hit the ground, and the tires are going to go up in the air and just spin your tires. So you're not going to get the traction you need to the ground. And that's where this long board comes in, because what I'll do is I'll set this out, and then the whole car sits on it. So I can check my ride height. I can also associate makes your ride height gauge too. You can also set it to say 20, and then after it's all loaded, you can slide this under the body and check the ride height on it, front and rear. And then you also want to check your wheelie bar height. Once you find a good height for the wheelie bar, measure it so you know where to go back to when, say if you change your car, you take your car off, you can always reset your wheelie bar and make sure that that is correct. Now, after you get the car all done, push down the wheelie bar. Both wheels should touch the ground at the same time. If you do launch and one wheel hits, say if this wheel hits here, the car is going to go that way. So you really want to make sure that when you take off, that both wheelie bars touch the ground at the same time. Not just that, is when you pick the car up from the center in the middle with one finger, you want both tires in the rear to touch at the same time. If you pick it up and one's not touching, so when your car launches, it could actually pull that one tire up in the air and make the car steer. So you want to make sure everything is nice and square. And also do the same with the front. I'll pick the rear up where the rear touches to make sure that the front is nice and square. So if the front end does lift, both tires are leaving the ground at the same time. If you have one leave more than the other, then the car can either steer left or right. Brandon Catan, if you're running an RTR ready to run DR10, you can actually change the spur to like an 81 and put a 25-26 tooth pinion on a stock DR10 setup. That'll get you closer to running 13.5 times with that. Now you can make multiple passes at that gearing. But just check your temps, because I'm not sure if you're running on concrete or asphalt or any of that. Thanks. It seems like I go over this a lot, but I do get a lot of questions about this. So now my car should be ready to go, besides my ride height, to go out and make some passes. Before that, I do have to. My little crash at Rancho's because of the broken chassis. I need to replace my rear wing, so I got some Lexan. I need to make that out of. Also, when you guys do get your car all lined up, when you push the front of your car down, you notice when I push it down, my body does not hit the wood at all. It stops right at the wood. That way, when I get up to speed and the car sucks down, or if I hit my brakes, it doesn't drag the front of the body and slow the car down. I've seen so many guys go out and race their car, and the car will suck down because of the weight, or because of the downforce, and the body hits the ground and it slows their car down. And I've seen guys lose race by a car or two, and if their body wasn't changed, I can guarantee you that they wouldn't have lost that race. So check that also. Also, when you put your body on, make sure your tires do not rub anywhere. That's why I do run a short course style rim on my drag car. You can see they're in a little far, just so if they do grow a little bit, or which they're not going to grow too much because they're belted, but if the tire will never have a chance to rub on the body, even if it's pushing down real hard. I don't have, even with a couple crashes I've had, I don't have any rub marks of tires on the body itself. So you want the car to be as free as possible. Make sure everything is nothing's rubbing, nothing's sticking down to slow the car down. So also I had a couple questions. Let's see here. No, the stock ESC on the DR10 is not tunable. So, and you're not going to hurt it. It's not going to hurt it that bad. Also, I've had some guys. We have these new LCF slipper pads that that we have made for our race cars, our 4-wheel drives, and our 2-wheel drive. But a lot of us still run the hexagon style slipper on the 87. If you guys are looking for these slipper pads, you can actually take these and cut the little piece off all the way around and make these a hexagon pad. So if you guys are looking to, if you guys can't find the hexagon slipper pads, you can get the new ones and turn them into a slipper pad that will work on the DR10. Now, there is two style of slipper pads, the new slipper pads for the new B6.2 and the 74, that there's this one here with a bigger hole in the middle, and then there's some with a more of a slipper pad, so for more grabbing. So there's some adjustments with these new slipper pads, and you can actually make these work for your DR10. What's up, Dan Wilson? So that is that's a good way, guys, of setting your car up and getting it race ready, making sure everything is true, make sure you don't have any issues. So when you go to the track or you go to your local street race, your car is set up and ready to go. So hope that helps, guys. If you guys have any questions, please hit me up. But I just want to kind of go over on how to square up your car and get it ready to go out and hit the streets. Also, I've also had questions about, guys, everybody that talks about when your car pulls to the left or pulls to the right. Usually I won't adjust anything on my car unless I do 2 to 3 passes. And if it does the same thing, goes left, I'll put a half a turn in the left rear shock to get it to straighten back out. If it pulls right, then I'll put a half a turn in the right. If it straightens up a little bit more or too much, you can adjust from there. Usually I really don't adjust the front very often, just make sure they're true and square. I do everything on the rear of the car. And all these, I know, Nick, you say you like your Traxxas car, which is great. And all these little tricks and tips that I've given you will work with any drag car you have out there. You can't run a gyro in street racing, Nick. Mel's here. So, anyways, guys, if hope that helps out. We'll be going live again tomorrow. I do have something we're going to be talking about tomorrow, so we'll see you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time.